Hi, this is Lorena, and I wanted to do a tutorial on how to do your back binding on a large quilt. I did a tutorial probably last year sometime, and I've had a wonderful amount of feedback. But some people have asked me to do this tutorial on a larger quilt. So that's what this tutorial is for. It is requested from one of my viewers. So this is the quilt that the elderly community did, and I already have it completely quilted, and now I need to finish it off by doing the binding. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the back fabric to create that binding. So the first step is you're going to go ahead and start cutting off all that batting. What I find is when you're cutting the batting is make sure that your hand is underneath so that you don't nick or cut any of that back fabric. When you have a bigger quilt, I found that there's more of a chance for you to nick that back fabric because they'll get caught. So here you see me grab that back fabric, tucking it kind of away and lifting that batting so that I know for sure that I'm not going to nick it. Another issue is you see that corner's kind of wonky. So my quilt top, even though it was square when I put it on my machine, it kind of, the fabric shifted and moved a lot. So here I'm going to go ahead and try to square it, even though I did square it when I did it, but you know, fabric shifts and moves. I quilted over in this area so you see my thread is kind of stuck, and so I'm getting my seam rippers and I'm going to go ahead and just cut that thread down because it went off when it quilted, and I'm going to go and also cut any thread that's in the way so that I could go ahead, now that I've drawn that line, cut a complete straight seam so that my quilt top is square because you want your quilt tops to always be square. So here you see me lifting that batting and pushing that back fabric, and now you see that that corner is a lot better than it was. You're going to do this all the way around, and since when I quilted it I have areas where the thread went off a little bit, I'm just getting my seam ripper and pulling that, cutting that thread so that I'm able to cut the batting completely off and have as straight as of a line as I can. So that's why you see me doing that. And I'm sorry my hand's in the way, but you know that I'm just cutting that batting off. I'm going completely all the way around. And once you're done doing that, we're going to go ahead and start getting ready to start cutting the back fabric. Now, usually when you're quilting, you have an excess amount of back fabric. You're going to use the edge of your quilt top and give yourself an inch. So you're going to have an inch all the way around of back fabric. Here you see me using my ruler, and in a minute I'll show you. I'm going to use my ruler to guide myself and give myself a complete inch. This is really important because this back fabric, that extra inch, is going to be what's going to roll over to do your binding. Now we're going to go ahead and get a hot iron. I like the irons that have a lot of steam, and have your Elmer's glue ready. So you're going to fold that back fabric that was an inch in half, and you're going to go ahead and use your iron and steam and give yourself a really nice crisp seam line right there. While you're doing this, just make sure that your quilt top fabric stays flat and clean because you don't want it to roll up on you. And you're going to go ahead and go all the way down the length of that one side of your quilt top. Now, after you've done with this, you're going to go ahead and get your Elmer's glue. I was putting the glue on top of the quilt top, but it works better when you're putting it on that back fabric. And you're going to go ahead, and the Elmer's glue is going to tack that seam down. In my other tutorial, I've been asked a lot of questions concerning the Elmer's glue. The Elmer's glue that I have is a wash away Elmer's glue. What I like about it is it washes away. Also, when the iron and the heat of the iron are in contact with the glue, it literally dries really dry. It's not tacky at all in any way, and it doesn't affect your needle. I've been asked questions concerning the glue. If it gums up your needle, does it affect your machine? I've used this technique on several different machines, and I've never seen any residue on the needle at all. But if you find other glue that works for you, There's a basting glue that would work also, that's wash away. Whatever glue works for you, go ahead and use it. I just found that this is the easiest for me, and that's why I use it, and I've never had any issues. Now, when the glue dries, you see kind of like a little dry residue, but once you wash your quilt top, it literally disappears because it's wash away. And here you see me kind of fiddling with that fabric because I want to make sure that when it folds over that it's a straight seam. Now we're going to do this corner area and make sure that it's tucked nice and clean. And we're going to get that glue and we're going to go ahead and tack it down. Now, after this, we're going to start working on the corners. And what I recommend is we're going to turn that fabric around. We're doing the opposite side. And right here in this corner, we're going to do a triangle. And I'm going to put glue right there. And I'm going to make a triangle and just pushing the fabric down, making sure it's nice and flat. And I'm going to make a triangle and I'm going to tack it. This is really important because this is what makes your mitered corner. And then we're going to fold it in half again. And after you fold it in half and iron, what I did is I went ahead and ironed all the way down the fabric and just went all the way and did all my ironing all in one shot. And so here you see me moving the fabric and I've ironed it all the way. Now here we're going to go ahead and get the Elmer's glue. And we're going to go ahead and in that corner, we're going to make sure that it lines up to the other corner and you're going to get that beautiful mitered corner. In my other tutorial, I have a better visual of this, but you can still see it in a minute. I'm going to also do another area where we're doing the corner and you'll see it again. So here you see me going and getting the Elmer's glue and rolling that fabric over, and this is what's going to make your top binding. And we're going to go ahead and iron it and tack it down. Now in this section, I just want to get just a little clearer view on how to do your corners because you really do want to have a really pretty mitered cornered end. Now here I have my fabric folded over in this section. I'm going to make a triangle to the edge of the corner of the quilt top like you see right there. I'm going to go ahead and iron it. I like putting Elmer's glue underneath it because then it doesn't shift. Now once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and fold your fabric in half again. And you're going to do this on all your corners. And once you've tacked that fabric down in half, you're going to go ahead and get your Elmer's glue like you see me here, like I showed you earlier, and you're going to put the Elmer's glue on that fabric on the back, and you're going to roll it over. Once you do this, you should get a really pretty and seamless mitered cornered end. And just make sure that you fold it over to the very edge of your other fabric to get that miter. Once you've done that and you've set your fabric where you want it to be, go ahead and get your iron and tack it completely down. Now I'm showing you the very last end. On the very last end, I did that triangle and I folded the fabric over, and now I'm going ahead and tacking that end over. It's the same exact technique on finishing that end also. And here you see me ironing it completely down, and you see the mitered corner again. Now, the next part, it's all up to you. I like to sew my binding down, especially with this technique, because when I used to do old traditional binding, I ended up having the binding put on there. And when I sewed the binding, I ended up having a wonky seam in the back, which made my binding kind of look ugly in the back. On this technique, you don't have any seams on your back fabric. And here you see me showing you how I sew it. That's why I really like this technique, because you only see one seam on your back fabric. Now, if you don't want to sew your binding, you can hand stitch this also, like regular traditional binding that's hand stitched. But it's all up to you. I'm donating this quilt, so I really don't want to spend several hours hand binding when I could go ahead and just sew it, and in the back it looks perfect because you only see one seam. And so here's what the corner looks like. Now this is considered a little bit bigger than a throw, and this is what the corner looks like when it's completely sewn and done. I really do appreciate you watching, and I thank you for subscribing if you haven't. Also, I do have another video, and I will link it on the bottom on how I did this tutorial on a small quilt block, so it's a little bit smaller in size. I really thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time, guys. See you later.